Lemmy Kilmister's voice appeared to transcend space and time, making him the legendary lead singer of Motorhead. His genius was undeniable and his voice trembled the world. However, Lemmy had his flaws. He was a means to an end for chaos. Lemmy was an expert at causing chaos, whether he was behind the wheel of an intoxicated vehicle or on one of his wild tours. Some bands he respected, but others he fought with. How had he become so twisted? For what reason did he find these bands so repulsive? Come along as we uncover the reasons behind Lemmy Kilmister's outspoken, uncensored, and compromised worldview and his contempt for bands. It all begins on a brisk Christmas Eve in post-war England in the famous Lemmy narrative. Ian Fraser Kilmister was born to Joan and Bill Kilmister, a young couple from the peaceful town of Stoke-on-Trent, during this hopeful and healing time. Bill, an improbable WWII hero, and Joan, a caring nurse, crossed paths with a loyal priest serving in the Royal Air Force. Despite everything going on around them, their love bloomed, and they were married in an intimate ceremony with only immediate family and friends present. But while Lemmy's mother was 3 months along in her pregnancy, his musically gifted and religious father filed for a divorce. The little fingers that would later coalesce into Motorhead's legendary Ace of Spades riffs lingered in the air. From Newcastle-under-Lyme to Madley, Lemmy and his family made 2 moves when he was a tiny boy. There, Lemmy found solace in the melodies of his grandma's piano. Such solace, alas, would quickly wane. After settling down on a farm near Bedlake, Wales, the famous singer would confront a terrible struggle against loneliness. Out of 700 pupils from Wales who despised him, Lemmy would be the only Englishman. Being alone shaped him into the person he would become, even though it was tough. Because of the difficulty of the task, his perspective broadened and his thinking evolved. That was a lesson that Lemmy learned. He should probably stick out rather than blend in. But he still craved human interaction. George L. Willis, a tough rugby player, had 2 children on his own and asserted that he had found his problem when his mother wet him. Tony and Patricia, Lemmy's stepbrothers, were difficult for him to bond with. When things became heated, Lemmy got what he needed, a rock and roll. This led to Lemmy's rebellion. Now that we've covered the origins of Lemmy's rebellious attitude and distinctive style, how can we move on to discussing his boundless creativity? Lemmy's preferences and talents were shaped by his early fascinations with science fiction, horror films, and military history. As he became more interested in other things, his mind and creativity grew. But it was incomplete. Life force. I had a substantial amount on Lemmy. To what end might he put it? The catch was that, even discovering the locations, Lemmy still couldn't get in. Parents and the proprietor can be in for some trouble if their youngster visits such a place. However, Lemmy personified defiance. He was prepared to risk witnessing rock roll bands in local dance halls because he was disobedient. Little Richard and Elvis Presley captivated Lemmy, but it wasn't sufficient. While enrolled in East Gold's Thomas Jones Comprehensive School. Like such folks he aspired to be, people in the hall started calling him Lemmy because of his unhealthy obsession with rock roll, ladies, motorbikes, and horses. His love of rock roll took a backseat to his enthusiasm for women. In what way? At school, Lemmy saw a fellow student playing guitar while staring at the females, and he had the same desire. He decided to steal his mom's guitar and play it at school, where he quickly became a popular student. However, he sucked at it. Whatever the case may be, as a guitarist, he drew a large number of female admirers. People of both genders were staring. He was tormented, taunted, and battled with by the other lads. Finally reaching his breaking point, Lemmy responded, leading to his expulsion. Lemmy started doing odd jobs once he was kicked out. However, music was his genuine vocation. His inability to play was the problem. He saw the Beatles play at Liverpool's famous Cavern Club when he was 16 years old. A dramatic shift occurred in his life. Lemmy started studying guitar after having a revelation. Lenny did what the Beatles did. He became a member of Rock and Vickers in 1965. They were a somewhat popular band that toured all across Europe. If Lemmy had stayed with the band, he could have been more successful, but his defiant personality caused friction between the band and management on several occasions. After a particularly crazy tour, they decided to let him go from the Rock and Vickers. In spite of the difficulty, Lemmy remained steadfast. Discovering they were the band he despised greatly increased his drive to succeed. Lemmy uprooted his life and career to London, where he became a roadie for Jimi Hendrix. As a roadie, he learned more than anyone else about the music industry and rock and roll in general. After Lemmy's time with Jimi Hendrix ended, he became known as Ian Willis and became a member of the psychedelic rock group Sam Gopal. Why did Lemmy do this? Had he run into any problems while he was there? Following his breakup with Sam Gopal, he became a member of the unsuccessful band Opal Butterfly. The results Lemmy was hoping for didn't appear to be materializing. Joining the space rock band Hawkwind was a bold decision on his part in 1971. Hawkwind was the band where Lemmy's talents shone through the greatest. Their massively successful single Silver Machine featured his lead vocals. Nevertheless, the light obscured the ring's lurking shadows. Lemmy allegedly had a heavy drug habit and frequently got into altercations with his fellow band members. His singing was excellent, but they may have grown bored with him. His firing was postponed until 1975 due to his arrest for drug possession. Did anyone take his lessons to heart? Joining a band might help him kick his drug habit, but would it be enough to keep him from acting out? Lemmy vowed never to play in a band again after Hawkwind's disbandment. He had a vision and an intense desire to form a band that would represent his raw, unfiltered musical style. Before rebranding as Motorhead, he and guitarist Larry Wallace and drummer Lucas Fox formed the band Bastard. Having said that, things weren't always peachy at first. After discovering that Lucas Fox could not be relied upon, Lemmy brought in Phil "Filthy" Animal Taylor to fill in for him. Lemmy on bass and vocals, Taylor on drums, and Wallace on guitar brought Motorhead back from the dead, though they weren't quite there yet. Swift Ennie Clarke, a buddy of Taylor's, tried out for the role of Motorhead's second guitarist in 1976. Both Clarke's rumbling guitar work and Lemmy and Taylor's friendship were plain to witness. Since Wallace had already left, Clarke had been playing guitar alone. When Motorhead first formed, Lemmy, Clarke, and Taylor were its three members. Their road to success was not without its share of obstacles, though. No one paid attention to their first albums, and no one came to their early shows. Even though he is very tenacious, Lemmy felt like giving up. Record companies disapproved of the band and weren't interested in signing them. As far as Lemmy was concerned, the band could pull it off. He remained enthralled by and committed to their music throughout his life. His passion served as an inspiration to others. The exquisite relief of accomplishment followed. Their self-titled debut album in 1977 was a game changer. The rock community took notice of the record due to its loud and dramatic sound. Successive albums included Ace of Spades, Bomber, and Overkill. For Outcasts and Rebels by Ace of Spades solidified Motorhead's status as a seminal rock band. Lemmy enjoyed the backing of numerous influential people throughout his career. Doug Smith was one of them. He recognized Motorhead's potential and was instrumental in assisting the band in overcoming obstacles they had in the music industry. Lemmy received invaluable emotional and professional support from his relationships with other rock legends, such as Ozzy Osbourne. On the other hand, some people were resistant. Soon we will discuss the groups and individuals that Lemmy despised. He was bound to be a source of contention and estrangement due to his intransigence, but in what ways does his lack of maturity explain his obstinacy? Assuming it to be true, it seeped into his private life, causing him significant setbacks. Lemmy had a few serious relationships despite his brusque personality. His 1971 divorce with Susan Bennett came as a shock. They were married in 1969. A divorce petition was filed by them because he felt he was too young and naive to settle down. Lemmy was quite hard on himself when the marriage failed. He dated Wendy O. Williams, lead singer of the Plasmatics, when his marriage allegedly ended in divorce. In and out of the limelight, the two were entwined. They were quite close because they respected each other and disobeyed authority figures together. Their friendship endured long after their romantic relationship ended, and they stayed close even though they never had children together. Despite his notoriously tight-lipped nature, Lemmy had multiple major relationships during his lifespan. I don't mean everything of his personal matters. Rumor has it that Lemmy's troubled past was mostly brought on by his drug and alcohol addiction. Lemmy encountered legal issues at every turn. The charges against him Afterwards, Lemmy was taken into custody for narcotics possession when he attempted to traverse the Canadian border. Police apprehended Lemmy after discovering a cache of cocaine and speed in his possession. That was the first step, indeed. Lemmy was involved in a speeding accident with a lamppost in 1984, which occurred a few years after. On suspicion of drunk driving, he was swiftly removed from the scene and placed in handcuffs. Another incident occurred in 1991 when a physically aggressive female fan got involved with Lemmy. There were allegations of assault, and he ended up in court. Was his knowledge expanded as he matured? In no way. As far as anyone could tell, Lemmy could never slow down. After he made a disturbance in 2004 and the police were sent to remove him, he was removed from a hotel. Defiant, he stayed the whole time. His intense dislike for numerous individuals is hardly surprising. Lemmy had the utmost respect for a number of his contemporaries. Allow me to tell you about a friendship that would alter the trajectory of rock roll before we delve into his intense feelings towards particular bands. Two Osborne brothers, Lemmy and Ozzy, were involved. Legendary music and extreme rebellion are conjured up by those names. Black Sabbath and Motorhead became pals in the early days of both bands' careers, and their friendship led to legendary rock collaborations. Lemmy and Ozzy's dynamic was perfect for rock roll. Because of how well they got along, their first joint projects were fruitful. Many of Ozzy's most famous songs, Mama, I'm Coming Home, Hellraiser, Desire, and I Don't Want to Change the World, feature Lemmy's contributions. But I Ain't No Nice Guy, a March or Die song by Motorhead, featured Ozzy's distinctive wail. Their friendship had a significant impact on their musical styles. Ozzy wanted to leave Black Sabbath, and Lemmy's untamed energy and defiant attitude were his inspirations. In contrast, Ozzy brought a whole new level of theatrics to Motorhead's live performances with his comedic timing and theatricality. But the music wasn't the only thing. Both of them were being deceitful. They once set fire to a Tokyo hotel room. Subtly taping an inebriated rendition of Stand By Me was another one of their sneaky projects. Never released to the public, it featured Lemmy's vocals and Ozzy's guitar. Even when it came to other famous people and bands, Lemmy wasn't like that. Among his closest associates were two groups he openly despised, ABBA and Queen, the former for their syrupy, pompous pop sound and the latter for their excessive theatricality. Another famous instance included his feud with Pink Floyd, whom he referred to as Pink Fraud. They were too commercial and ostentatious in his opinion. As a result, Roger Waters of Pink Floyd made matters worse by comparing Lemmy to a caveman. Lemmy shot back, saying, "At least I don't wear a tutu on stage names." He scolded U2 for trying to water down rock roll, which he perceived as lacking in raw fire and defiance. The band U2 was also considered dull by him. His now famous comment was, "I'm in a band because I want to stop people like them from making music." The uproar that Lemmy's statement sparked was ready to be commented on by both critical YouTube viewers and uninterested supporters. The audience was spellbound and amazed by them. They stated he stood out among the corporate elites groveling because he told it like it was. Some said he was an anti-modern, spoiled rock star who couldn't relate to today's culture. How did Lemmy react when people pointed out his flaws? He would not budge from his determination to protect rock and roll's image, no matter the cost. As a general rule, Lemmy is unconcerned. He has the right to his opinion, but you also have the advantage, Lemmy said courteously. Providing music that people can relate to is all we aim for, is important to humans in some way. Refusing to budge, Lemmy declared, "They have no meaning for me." His animosity toward these bands came to represent the schism between two distinct periods and styles of rock music. Both groups acknowledged and appreciated the achievements of the other, despite their hatred. Regardless, Lemmy was not bashful about speaking his mind and questioning conventional thought. In his latter years, Lemmy Kilmister experiences both triumph and tragedy. Despite Lemmy's worsening health, he persisted in performing and recording music while Motorhead's renown stayed steady. His health problems, which included cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diabetes, and hypertension, made live performances more challenging for him. Despite a slowdown in album releases, he kept touring with Motorhead. The 2013 discovery of a hematoma, a form of brain hemorrhage, gave Lemmy a major concern about his health. He made a full recovery after surgery, but his condition kept getting worse. There were fewer live concerts by Motorhead because the band had to postpone tours and appearances due to his illness. The terrible news that Lemmy's cancer was fatal came on December 28th, that year 2015. Many in the rock business were shocked and saddened by the news. By declaring "I'm not afraid of death," Lemmy met his own mortality head-on with the signature wit and audacity of humor. At the age of 70, Lemmy put an end to a life brimming with boundless vitality.